Good afternoon and welcome to the Florida Sea Grant Aquatalk video series. We're celebrating National Seafood Month, which just happens to be in October. So we stretched it out for one more day just to get in one last video today. My name is Laura Tiu and I'm a Florida Sea Grant agent up in the Panhandle. I work in both Okaloosa and Walton counties on coastal issues. But my background is in aquaculture. I've been actually doing aquaculture for nearly 30 years, and the past 10 years I've seen an increasing interest in aquaponics. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is hobby scale aquaponics, and show you a small system that we have built here at the Walton County office. The whole idea of putting in an aquaponics system started because we have a small hobby scale farm here at the Walton County Extension Office. We only have 1/3 of an acre behind our building, but on it we have a greenhouse and a lot of other systems that let us produce a lot of food here. We can grow shiitake mushrooms, we have an herb garden, we have some blueberry bushes. We do raised beds, and for fall here you can see we've got some onions and some leaf spinach planted. We have 2 honeybee hives. We have some clucky chickens which were singing to us earlier, but they've decided to be quiet now. We have several varieties of hardy citrus that can take our light freezes that we have up here in the Panhandle, and we do a few muscadine grapes and figs, all on 1/3 of an acre. And so we decided to try to add to that and put in some aquaponics. So we're going to head inside the greenhouse and we'll show you what we developed. A lot of people think that aquaponics is new, but it's not really. It's been practiced by both Central Americans and Asians for many centuries. The idea of raising fish and vegetables together has even been researched here in the United States for a long time, but it really started to take off about 15 years ago. It works very well in places that have poor soil quality, where you can't have an outside garden always easily, like Florida, where we have a lot of sand. And it also works well in places with limited water because it only uses about 10% of the water of traditional agriculture. So we wanted to look at it at a hobby scale. Another thing that it's good for our population in Florida is we have a large senior population in Florida, and sometimes as you get older, bending over to pull those weeds gets a little bit tougher. So aquaponic systems can be raised off the ground so you have easy access to your plants and your fish. In aquaponics, you're really growing 3 things. The 2 obvious ones are your cash crops, which are usually your fish and your vegetables, but probably the most important one that people don't think about is you're growing bacteria. These bacteria play a crucial role in your system in that they convert the waste ammonia from fish into nitrate, which is the nutrients that the plants need to grow. And so it's a simple system of recirculating water and growing bacteria and fish and plants, and then trying to achieve a balance with that. We wanted to put this demonstration system here, so about 1.5 years ago we got a small grant to pay for the equipment, and the idea behind the equipment is that we would try to buy as much locally as possible, although we did have to go to Amazon.com to get a couple of the pieces. Our system here is considered one of the 3 major types of system. It's considered a floating raft or a deep water culture type system, even though our water isn't very deep. You can also use what's called a Nft System, which is nutrient film technique, or a media bed system, which is where you'll use some type of media like clay bowls or limestone or something to plant in. So this is one of the 3 most popular type of aquaponics systems that you'll see out there, and it's one that I like because I like to not put a lot of effort into my system and a lot of effort and time, and this is really fairly easy to operate. Not completely foolproof, but very nice. So the first thing you see in our system right here is a 300-gallon watering tank from Tractor Supply Company. You'll see them if you go into any of the stores. And this is our fish culture tank right here. The water gets a little bit brown after a while just from the colors releasing from the feeds. And so it's hard to see down in the tank. So for today, I've pulled up one of our little guys. This is actually our third crop of fish in here in about a year and a half. Our last crop got up to harvest size and was harvested. So we just stocked this new batch of, they were 3 to 4 inch catfish about a month and a half ago. And as you can see now, we're up to about a 5 or 6 inch catfish. So they're eating very well, and they're doing fine. There's a few species that tend to do well in these systems. One of the best species, and when you start reading the literature, is the tilapia. Tilapia is a freshwater cichlid that is actually in a lot of water bodies in Florida, but it's not yet in the panhandle very much. So right now, tilapia are restricted in the panhandle. We cannot use tilapia in our systems, even our home hobby systems, because it's considered a restricted species. So we have to look at some other species that would do well. Although, as a caveat, tilapia would do great. If you're down in the panhandle listening, just go on the Florida Department of Agriculture FDEC site, and they have all the rules and regulations about who can have tilapia and who can't. But we do have to get a little creative here in the panhandle, so we've raised several different species. In this particular system, I have only raised catfish because I like to eat catfish. But I have several growers in the county. One has done a great job with bluegill and has grown some beautiful bluegill in his system because he prefers to eat bluegill. I also have a grower that simply grows koi. She doesn't want to eat her fish. She only uses her fish to drive the system and provide the nutrients for the system. So she just enjoys looking at the colorful fish and seeing the fish in her system. So she prefers to use koi. So you could use koi, goldfish. When I was in Ohio, we used yellow perch, and I've seen systems that also use trout. So you have a lot of options there. Tilapia, catfish, bluegill, koi. If you had cold water or spring water, maybe you could grow some trout if you can keep it cold enough. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Laura, we've got a couple viewers you can
All right.
probably say hi to. There's Dorothy Zimmerman is watching.
Hi, Dorothy.
And also Lisa Krimsky.
Hi, Lisa.
Yep. And
Welcome.
Becca, of course.
And Becca, welcome to Walton County. So I'm going to walk you through the rest of the system while my lovely assistant Jill here helps me out. Oh, I wanted to briefly show you, a lot of people ask me, so what do you feed the fish? What's the fuel that goes into this system? And we do feed them a prepared diet. The one that I use is made by Purina. It's called a game fish chow, and you can order this on Amazon.com. I order it in 20-pound bags, and then I keep it in the freezer so that the quality of the food doesn't degrade, and I just bring out a little bit at a time. Now the fish probably will not eat for us right now because they usually only eat in the morning, and I've been messing with them, so they also don't like that. But we just, it's just a small pellet. It almost looks like cat food or dog food, and you just add that to the water and they come up and get it. So a few pellets a day for everybody, but it is a prepared diet, and it's 32% protein, so it's nutritionally very good for them. The water actually gravity feeds out of the fish tank into a solids capture bucket, which is just another garbage can from Tractor Supply Company. The thing is that the waste product from the fish that the plants are looking for and that needs to be converted to nitrate is ammonia, and that's just excreted out of the gills and in the urine. It's odorless and colorless. Any feces or uneaten feed needs to be removed from the system. So to do that, we put it through a series of filters. This is just a garbage can that is stuffed with bird netting, and the bird netting allows for the attachment of all those nitrifying bacteria. So they change the ammonia into nitrite. Meanwhile, the solids sink down to the bottom of the garbage can, and once a week can be removed in a 5-gallon bucket and used to fertilize your other plants. Fish wastewater makes very good fertilization, so it's nice to have it. Once we've cleaned all the solids out of the water then gravity feeds in what's called our culture beds. And you can see we have 2 here. They're actually feed troughs for horses and cows. from Tractor Supply Company. We raised them up a little bit, so as old people, we wouldn't have to bend over so far to work on our plants, so we just put them on some cinder blocks. And then we've floated our plants on top of them. When you talk about, we've talked about what fish do well in the system. Now we can talk about what plants do well in the system. Leafy greens and herbs do the best. They have the lowest requirement for nutrients and also the lowest requirements as far as volumes of water that they need every day. And so if you're a beginner, one of the best plants you can start out is basil. And I wish we had Smell-O-Vision Facebook Live, because this basil smells so terrific right now. It just makes me want to go home and do some Italian cooking and everything. So we've always started, and here at the office we like to eat a lot of lettuce salads for lunch, and so we grow lettuce, and then we research it at lunchtime. Sometimes we do some taste testing. So if you come down here to our next crop, we actually just planted this. This is a black seeded Simpson lettuce. It's a leaf lettuce. This one was planted 9/26. Now you can see we're having some germination issues. Some of them did very well, and some of them are just now germinating. We have had some crazy weather up here in the Panhandle. We had a very unusually hot summer, followed up by the hurricane season, and now we're getting cool temperatures. So things have been a little bit crazy. I did want to back up and show you the root system on this basil, though. This basil has been in here. Let's see, this basil was planted on 9/18, so it's about a month old, and you can see how large it is. And I'm just going to pick it up and show you how the roots extend down through the tray into the water. So you can see a quite extensive root system going down into what they call the deep water culture. Oh, again, that smells just so good.
Laura, we have a question from Holly.
Okay.
She wants to know if the change in weather is the reason you chose to put your system in a greenhouse.
It is. Being in a greenhouse lets us grow year-round. There's a couple of different reasons. It also helps with the insect pressure. You know, in Florida we have a lot of insects outside, so being in a greenhouse helps keep that down. We're lucky that our greenhouse actually has some cooling pads and a fan system, so we're able to, and a heater, so we're able to control the temperature a little bit in here. We actually try not to, because that's where you're adding expense into your system. So we try to match the plants to this season so that it'll be less expensive, that we don't have to keep them heated or chilled. But sometimes we do when we have extreme events. Perfect. So let's move on down here. After the water gravity flows through the first beds, it hits the second beds. And here's where we started our experimentation. I had a grower over in Okaloosa County who was trying to grow strawberries in his aquaponics system. And so he said, hey, I'm going to give you some of mine and see what you can do. And I said, okay, I'll throw them in there. We had about 6 plants. And you can see the plants themselves have exploded. They've put out runners everywhere and started all kinds of baby plants. But you can tell just by looking at them that they have a nutrient deficiency. And this is common. Fruiting plants like strawberries, tomatoes, or peppers require a lot more nutrients than your leafy greens. And often aquaponic systems are limiting in calcium, potassium, and iron. And I have not added. I have some that I'm going to try adding and see if I can green these up and get some fruits on them. But I haven't added any because I've just been watching them spread and kind of see what they do. But they'll still put out those leafy green structures, but we won't get the flowers and the sweet berries that we're looking for. So this is one way that we identify plant or pest problems in a system, is by the leaf color and noticing that they're not producing as well as they should. And then finally, our last little raft here, we have some, this is actually a Bib lettuce, and this was planted on 10/9/18. So this is about 3 weeks old. You can see it's doing really nice. Actually, these young tender leaves are nice to eat, but we usually let it get a little bit bigger than that. And then the final step is the water drains down into what we call the sump. This is all gravity fed from the fish tank on down to the sump. So the only moving part in this system is there's a small sump pump in this 100-gallon tank attached to a garden hose, which then feeds the water back up into the fish tank. So that sump is our one electrical pump in the system, and then we have an air pump that provides oxygen to the fish. So 2 small pumps run this entire system. So in terms of efficiency, it's quite good. Let's see, a couple things I wanted to hit on. I wanted to show you, you've seen the actual plants in the rafts. The system that we used in this trial, this is about our 4th or 5th or 6th go around, it's hard to keep track. We used these styrofoam seedling trays, and these are very popular in the horticulture industry. They already have holes in the bottom of them, so they're just perfect. And we fill them with a soilless mixture. We just mix perlite and some peat moss and some vermiculite. So it provides a media. The media is put into these little cubes and they absorb water from the system. So we just put a seed in each one of the cubes, and eventually the seedling germinates right inside the cube here. Other systems actually germinate their seeds on a seedling tray and then transfer them into their system. So there's several different ways to do it. Another way that we've also done it in the past is using more of a media approach. And for this, you can use some floating styrofoam that we've drilled with holes. And then you have these little hanging baskets. And inside, this is called an expanded clay particle. Popular name is hydroton that you'll see. But it almost feels like lava rock. It's really lightweight and porous, and it absorbs water as well. So when you float these in the water, they'll become saturated with water, and you can plant your seed right in there. This is probably better for fruiting plants that have a little bit of a deeper root system. So that's important to have. These systems are not problem free. We have had some issues over the 1.5 years that we've been running it. We did have a whitefly infestation on our strawberries this summer, so we had to take everything out, sanitize it, and put it back in, and that seems to have cured it. You cannot treat with traditional pesticides or herbicides in these systems because you'll poison the fish. So everything has to be done very naturally, sometimes with some oils and other natural treatments. We did, when we first started, we actually this time of year had a rat infestation, and one morning we came in and a rat had eaten all of our lettuce, so we had to treat for vermin. Our greenhouse is old and it's not well sealed. And then we also had a human error incident where a water pump was turned off, and we had some fish get harvested a bit earlier than we expected. So the systems aren't problem free, but for the most part they operate themselves. We monitor the water quality about once a week when we're starting up the system, and after that about once a month. I can add a lot more plants to this system than I have in here right now. It's just a matter of time and focus. We're fortunate at University of Florida that we have some great resources for you if you're interested in aquaponics. One of them is what we call an EDIS document, which is an electronic document you can download online. And this one is called A Practical Guide for Aquaponics as an Alternative Enterprise. It's really nice. It was published by Drs. Tyson and Simone, and if you want to know what plants grow well at what temperatures and what kind of fish, what temperatures different kinds of fish need, all that information is right here in this document, and that's available free to download on our website, or you can email me and I can send you links to this, or these links are also on the Florida Sea Grant Aquaculture Aquaponics page. So there's a lot of places you can go to find it. Another one of my favorites is the Food and Agriculture Organization put this out a few years ago. It's called Small Scale Aquaponic Food Production, Integrated Fish and Plant Farming. And they do a really good job of showing you how these homemade systems, although they're all different, how they work and how to get the best production out of them for low cost. And that's really what a lot of our hobby gardeners in this area want. A lot of people think that, well, I'm going to start out as a hobby gardener and then I'm going to ramp up and become a commercial producer. And that's good to get experience on a small scale, but these small systems that we're building aren't really meant to be ramped up to commercial scale. If you want to go to a commercial scale, it requires licensing from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer, is it Services or Science? One of the Consumer Services. Yeah. and it requires best management practices. You have a lot of licensing and regulation loopholes, or not loopholes, hoops that you have to jump through to become a commercial operation. You should do very careful business planning, and your systems are typically designed a lot more intensively than these small hobby scale systems. But if hobby scale is what you're looking for, you just want to feed yourself, your family, maybe take a few things to the farmer's market, these hobby scale systems can be a lot of fun to play with. And I don't know, Jill, you've had the lettuce out of here. What do you think?
It's delicious.
There you go.
I'm happy that, I get to taste test for lunch.
Yes, exactly. So that's just a brief overview of hobby scale aquaponics and our system here at Walton County. It is available to view all year round. You just have to call and make an appointment and make sure I'm here, or our agriculture agent helps with this system as well, so he can show you around.
And Laura, your email again, if they want to email you?
If you'd like to contact me, my email is lgtiu@ufl.edu. And my name is Laura Tiu. That's T as in Tom, IU. And again, you can find me under faculty on the Florida Sea Grant webpage.
Very good. All right.
So do we have any questions, Jill, or everybody?
Oh, Eric Lovestrand is watching. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric.
I think that we can give a second and see if there are any more questions.
All right, well, it just started raining here again. We've had pretty big thunderstorms all day, so we were hoping the lightning wasn't going to bounce around us too much.
So Becca has a question. She wants to know how much maintenance is involved for someone who wants to start one in their backyard.
Actually, not a lot of maintenance at all. This system, once it got up and running and broken in, and we were confident of the water quality because we had tested it a much time, basically our agriculture agent, Evan Anderson, is the one who maintains it on a daily basis because he's here more than I am. So he comes in every morning and he throws in a handful of feed to the fish to make sure they're eating and doing well. That's the best way to check on them. And then in the summertime, we have to fill up the sump with about 10 gallons of water every day because of the high evaporation. But this time of year, we only have to fill it up about once a week. So that's it. That's your daily thing. There's no weeding because you don't get any weeds in it. We did have the pest issue, which took a little bit more maintenance. But other than that, it is daily. You want to check your fish daily and feed your fish daily, but it's a very short period of time. So it works out well for somebody even who's still working.
Great, Laura. Another question, ballpark price to start and build one of these?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, and that one is hard to answer because when you get interested in aquaponics, you're going to go online and you're going to see every system design imaginable. So you'll see them made out of, I held up these are called IBC totes. You'll see a lot of those available on the side of the road for $50, or you could go with a little bit higher end from Tractor Supply if you want the durability. This system itself came in right in under $1,000 for everything. That included the pumps, the oxygen pumps, all the tubing, the air stones, the floats, the styrofoam, the cinder blocks, everything. It was right under $1,000. And then we bought the fish and the feed, so there's a few ongoing expenses. But you can actually build a small system out of those blue barrels you see on the side of the road. It's called Barrelponics, and we have the directions for that. So it's possible to build a system probably for under $100, or you could go up to some of the commercially available hobby scale systems to the tens of thousands. So there's a wide range.
Very good. Laura, any lessons learned while building the system that you want to share?
Oh, so many lessons.
I know it went perfectly smooth for you.
Of course, it all goes perfectly smooth. This is not the first system that I built. When I was in Ohio, I built a lot more complicated system, which is why I went with the very simple system. So I would suggest, especially in the beginning, following the KISS principle of keep it simple, silly person, and learn your way around. I think the biggest mistake that people make is they don't give their biofilter enough time to break in. When you start a brand new system, you need to plan on at least a month before putting fish in it, and this builds up the bacteria population. we have instructions on how to do that. But most people are so excited once they get their system built, they stock their fish right away, and they don't give that bacteria time to build up, and they end up having a fish kill, and that's always disappointing. So follow the instructions, take time, and really do your homework before you invest a lot of money.
Okay. All right. And where do they find those instructions again?
Well, the instructions for the biofilter are in this EDIS document, which is linked on the Florida Sea Grant aquaculture page under Aquaponics. We have a lot of resources. This one's also linked there. If for some reason you can't find it, you can shoot me an email and I will send it as a document attached to an email. And then anytime you have questions, you can just email me and I'll do my best to help answer.
Perfect.
Did we have any other questions?
I don't see any other questions. We'll give them maybe another second.
Well, in the meantime, I'll give a shout out to Rebecca Burton. It is her birthday today.
Woo!
And she is actually the mastermind behind this Aquatalk series. It was really her brainchild of getting some aquaculture information out of it. For most of us, it's our first time to do Facebook Live, so we hope this is something that you enjoy, and we plan on doing it more in the future. But happy birthday, Becca.
Holly says thanks. You answered a question for her earlier, and so does Becca.
Oh,
she says thanks. So,
thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
yeah, I think it's time then to sign off, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.